today what I'm going to share is very quickly, 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A. So please make it very interactive. Ask as many questions to Charles and Haswani, and they can bounce it off to me. It's about how do you give your franchise a personality? And you've seen so many. You saw Smart Rental, BioLux, and various other brands, and O'Brien's. What is it that is special about a franchise? Okay, what is the intellectual IP, is intellectual property? What is the IP strategy that you can bring to your franchise? And why is IP important, right? Let's explore that. So that's what I'll be sharing today. A bit of background. So I myself have been with KASS for the past 17 years. I specialize in everything and anything to do with intellectual property. So you can say I breathe, sleep, and live IP. And IP involves franchising as well because you use these kind of assets. We have grown over 22 years from Malaysia. We're now in 6 countries. We're in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Singapore. And we advise on how do you actually enter into these countries. We have 55 people in the firm. On franchise, Malaysia is one of the special countries. Franchise is regulated in Malaysia. So that means everyone who's running a business that is like a franchise. That means you're replicating your business. That means your business falls under the Malaysian Franchise Act 1998. Malaysia has 2 risks. If it's not registered, there's 2 risks. In fact, I recently advised Australian franchise. And that's the thing about being in the franchise industry. It's really interesting to see what are the local brands that are growing, what are the foreign brands that are entering the country. We advise them on what is the risk. This was also an hour-long discussion, and you get the privilege of also listening to the same discussion and know the value of that advice. There's 2 risks if it's not registered in Malaysia. The first one is there's a government penalty. The penalty is a 500,000 ringgit fine for your first outlet that's not registered as a franchise, and 250,000 ringgit for subsequent outlets that's not registered as a franchise. Those of you who attended the last business opportunity venture grab, the last BOeX, it was on 9th of September, would have remembered me talking about the cases. I talked about, okay, I can talk about the theory. Okay, this is what the law says. But hey, in the business world, not everything is dragged to court, right? And in the last business opportunity presentation, I touched on cases. There's 4 cases that went to court, and there was disputes between the franchisors and the franchisees. And I talked about how were they resolved, right? So this is one of the risks, the government penalty. The second one is what the disputes ended up being. If it is not registered, if your franchise is not registered, then when either party has a problem with that agreement, franchisor says this, franchisee says this, and there's a fight on this agreement and there's a breach of contract, what happens then? You, of course, try to resolve it among each other, right? That's the first option. Why go to court when you can actually solve it? It's always a relationship that you're taking care of. But if that's not possible to take care of a relationship, then you take it to court and you sue in court. That's what legal profession is about, taking care of your legal needs. But when you sue in court, that agreement can be thrown out of court. It can be considered void if the franchise is not registered. Right? If a franchise is not registered, it can be thrown out of court. So we talked about this. So today I'm not going to touch on this, but I'm just again highlighting there's 2 risks that's very important if it's not registered. Today I'm delving into, okay, let's look at strategies. Let's look at intellectual property strategies. What is the role of intellectual property in franchises? It gives the unique selling point to the franchise. It makes the franchise stand out from others in the industry. It allows for premium pricing. When you have a specific thing, specific brand, you can charge higher rates. The business cannot be replicated. That's the most important of all. You've heard My Laksa present, and then there's a fishball brand as well. It's what is it that's so special that someone else cannot come and learn the business and replicate it, right? That's what intellectual property does for a franchise. It finds out all the unique selling points. What are the assets that you have that cannot be replicated? That's where intellectual property becomes a huge, important role. And franchisors need to identify what intellectual property is in their franchise business. You need to identify what is the intellectual property. And I'll show you some examples. I've got some McDonald's examples, some KFC examples. You have to identify what is it that stands out, what is it that can be protected, what is it that should be protected. Because when you teach a lot of franchisees to run your business, that intellectual property rights cannot be replicated if the franchisees leave the franchise business. If the relationship goes sour and parties part ways, the franchisee cannot go and start a similar business using the same intellectual property assets. That's where it's important, the role of IP. And franchisees who are tuning in as well, it's important for you to know that what cannot be then taken when you leave the relationship. The monopoly owned by franchisor for a period of time, that's why it's important. So that's the role of intellectual property rights in franchises. So this applies to both franchisors, franchisees, any member of the public who are just listening, because all these business deals are exciting anyway, right? It's very important to look at what is it that's special about your industry, what assets do you have, what should be protected, so copycats can be stopped on their tracks. That's what IP does. But more excitingly, I have examples. So let's look at some examples. When I say intellectual property, it's an umbrella term. That's trademarks for brands. There's industrial design for shapes of bottles, shape of holders, packaging. There's a lot in that food and beverage industry. So there'll be a lot of packaging that's involved. There's patents for technology used, whether it's to pack the food, whether it's to make the food, And then there's copyright for the artistic work, and this involves menu, this involves catalogs, website, what's on the website, and various other artistic and literary work, written work and artistic work. Then we have trade secret. Trade secret is a very interesting aspect of intellectual property rights. It's not registrable. We don't go to the intellectual property office to register this trade secret, but we keep it as a secret. So if anyone, let's make it interactive. Do type on the chat box. Think of trade secrets. What trade secrets do you know or have you heard of? Unmute or put it in the chat box. I'm okay with either. When I say trade secrets, what do you think are trade secrets? So I Chan, thank you so much. You said cha time. Charles says recipe. Chan, you also say business suppliers. Actually, yeah, business suppliers, confidential information. Actually, the pricing that business suppliers provide you with your raw material is trade secret. Customers' data, yes, Chan. Eden, cooking recipe, tender document, business strategies. So from Afin Bang, Wen Ying, thanks Wen Ying. Thank you everyone for being so interactive after lunch and on a Sunday. I'm really appreciative of it. It makes it more fun, right? It's as if you're in front of me. But a lot of what you all said is true. It is a secret, but it's actually confidential data. Business strategy, customer list, supplier pricing, where the fishbowl comes from, what's inside the fishbowl. Some of it are some of it are confidential information. That is a type of trade secret, but trade secret goes into information that makes that product unique. So these are usually recipes. How do you make that fishbowl? Why is it so authentic? Why does it taste that specific way? Those recipes, what ingredients goes into it. So when you hear trade secret, very often we hear Coca-Cola, the 11 ingredients in a Coca-Cola. Until now, they have never revealed what's in the Coca-Cola. That makes a huge difference. So Pepsi-Cola and all other cola companies try to reverse engineer a Coca-Cola. They'll do all the lab tests, they'll try to figure it out, and they'll make a product as close as possible, right? But you don't have the exact product because it's kept as a trade secret. It's not easy to keep information like that as a trade secret, but if it is possible, then for a restaurant industry, for F&B industry, try to. The other one, very famous, is KFC. KFC that better is a trade secret. If y'all have heard the Mary Brown story, the Mary Brown story is also how they keep trying to recreate that tasty chicken. And that's how and you see a lot of videos, just try to Google it, trying to make Coca-Cola or KFC. There's so many funny videos where they do a lot of experiments to recreate. So that's when keeping it as a trade secret is important because, hey, everyone's trying to recreate it, but they can't get the exact recipe. So trade secrets are very tricky. Because as the company grows, as you take on so many franchises, how do you keep it as a trade secret? That is a topic for another day. There is a lot of tricks of the trade. And with BOeX, you always get all the deals, all the business deals, and you also get all these nuggets of wisdom. And I'll come to you with these nuggets of wisdom of how do you actually keep a trade secret as a trade secret. Okay? So next, these are the type of intellectual property rights in franchises. So example of trademarks, right? And how important is it for you to choose a strong trademark is the next part of slides. Is trademarks, for example, trademarks that are very descriptive are often used. Chicken rice shop sells chicken rice. Sock shop sells socks. Secret recipe, restaurant using recipe. Face shop, selling facial care products. Very important as you grow in your business, or if you're thinking of a new business idea, try to go away from using descriptive brands, right? So these are examples. And the reason I say go away from using descriptive brands is very difficult to actually protect or take an action against someone using a similar brand when they have a very good reason to use it because they are explaining your business. Yeah. But let me show an example of how you use IP as a strategy. This is an example of Starbucks. Starbucks actually has one big brand. Everyone knows that one brand. But as you grow in the business, how do you then differentiate your coffee chain to other coffee chains? Apart from that main brand, if I'm going to enter Starbucks and get coffee, I can still enter Coffee Bean. I can still enter Peet's. Peet's was very popular in Seattle. Starbucks came from Seattle. So in Seattle is known to be the coffee city of the US, yeah? So there's so many coffee places. How do you differentiate yourself apart from just your one brand? You have, and many companies do this, and the best I could advise for local Malaysian franchises, right? Always look into the US market for ideas. Because the franchise system, this whole business model started from the US. So just look at what they did. So when you enter Starbucks and you ask for coffee, they don't even do, ma'am, do you want small, medium, or large? Everyone in the world does small, medium, and large. They come up with their own personality. Do you want tall, grande, venti, or trenta? What does that then do? When you create a business and you have a personality, when you replicate it, people want that. People enter that coffee place for that experience. So what you are doing is not just creating a personality, but also branding. You're creating a brand and a branding experience, and you have more ammo to shoot against any copycat. Venti, tall and grande are not trademarks, but venti is a trademark. They created that word. I mean, venti means something in another language, but they created that for use of a size in Starbucks. And the other brands that you see on this slide are also their brands. How many of us didn't know that Frappuccino is a brand? No other coffee company can use Frappuccino. That is interesting, isn't it? To come up with that word. And then they explain what it is. They say chill coffee drink. That's a tagline that they put under Frappuccino. Then they have Teavana. Teavana has so many different flavors. It's tea, a flavored tea, right? And then you've got Gold Coast, not Gold Roast. See, this is a trick. Gold roast for coffee is probably very common because you roast the coffee beans, but they call it Gold Coast. So no one else can copy that blend. Gold Coast, that's a brand. So you can see, right, as they grow, it's very important to, number one, of course, innovate and offer new products in the marketplace. That's how people get excited. That's how you also increase your SKUs, your product chain. And customers always know that they get a different experience. But as you do all of that, it's important to look what brands can I affix on my products, because I'm giving it a personality. If someone copies it, I can then take an action against them because they're not just copying Starbucks, they're copying other elements of my business. This is very similar to the famous case in Malaysia, McDonald's versus McCurry. McDonald's versus McCurry, McDonald's took an action against McCurry for copying their layout. They had a red color signage. they had the word McCurry in grey color, not in yellow, but in grey. And inside the restaurant, also it was red and grey. There's a big case, this case was very famous in Malaysia. But in the first instance, McDonald's won in the first court, in High Court. When it went to Court of Appeal, McDonald's lost. And the reason that they lost and McCurry won was that the judge will compare all the products in the menu. They said there isn't a filet of fish in McCurry, there isn't a McBurger, there isn't a Big Mac, there isn't a McNuggets. So the food is different. There's no confusion in the marketplace. McCurry sells Indian food and the target market is different. So that is where creating a personality is actually important. That when someone copies it, right, it's like they are copying my whole concept. Then you have a lot of ammo to actually take an action against them. If they don't copy that whole concept and just change some words and still have a different concept, then you might not be able to take an action against them. Right, so that's a bit on Frappuccino and Starbucks. Any questions on this? Feel free to type in the chat box and we'll address them after this presentation. This is another famous example, and I already touched on it because I talked about the McDonald's case here. McDonald's is one of those companies that have 100 over trademarks. And you know why this is interesting? It is just a fast food company, right? It's just selling various types of burgers and nuggets. How is it that there's so many brands? But look at everything they put out there. Even a meal for kids, they have a brand, Happy Meal. They've trademarked McNuggets. They've trademarked Filet-O-Fish, McCafe, the coffee chain that came, and that was very recent. That's probably in the last 15 years. Then you have McFlurry. And they're giving it a personality, and then they know when I give it a personality, copycats will want to try to steal elements of my personality. That's what copycats do. You come as close as possible, they'll try to get as close as possible, so that's what they do. They, of course, have funds. So we're not saying, hey, go register 100 trademarks, create 100 trademarks and register 100 trademarks. But you're definitely looking at 4 to 5 to give your franchise a flavor of a personality. People enter this, they know this is that specific restaurant that I'm going to get this kind of quality of products. And then when you franchise your outlet, all the other franchisees get to do marketing as well. You get to do various marketing on different products. That's how the business grows, using IP as a strategy. Okay, another example is patents. Let's move away from brands and let's look at technology. Patents, I mentioned earlier, so patents can be protected for processes used in the franchise, products used in the franchise, and improvements to products and processes. So let's look at, so in KASS, for example, we have half of us are engineers, because engineers are needed when you need to understand the invention, whether it's a mechanical machinery that needs to be dissected and we need to understand how the machinery works, or an electrical product, or nowadays there's a lot of software, so it's an ICT invention. So it's not just lawyers, we have engineers as well. Let's look at some patents. Let's look at some patents in the franchise world. McDonald's has gone and innovated and done R&D. And they've registered a patent for the McDonald's soft ice cream making machine, right? See, that is when it's also very difficult for copycats to come around, other people to come, or franchisees to use your, come and learn the business and go out and replicate the business. They can't when the machines that are used are patented, right? So this is one example. There's also another example we have for KFC. KFC's deep fat frying equipment and method of use has been patented, right? So this has been patented in the US. You can see the inventors, there's Arthur Donald from Nashville, and then they assign it. Assign it means they transferred it to Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation. This was filed in 1970. As far back as 1970, they did R&D. And you think about it, as you better your business, all the franchisors here, as you better the business, you would be constantly innovating, either in the process of getting the product to the marketplace or the process of streamlining the business. Next intellectual property that's used is industrial design. So it's the design of packaging, the design of the shop layout. So these are again examples. McDonald's cup is registered. When they create something new, they register it. Why would you register it? You get protection. It is the gun that you want to take against your copycats. It's that paper that you want to bring to court and say that this is my right. No one else has the right to use it. That's why you protect it. So these are examples of designs used in the franchise industry. KFC's bucket, when we were doing the write-up and the read-up and these slides, it's so interesting to see it. Wow, they went and even protected their bucket. But that's why you stay unique. Right? Everything about it is about staying unique and putting a new product out there and making sure the other fast food chains can't copy you. That's what you do. Okay, let's look at copyright. Copyright is very simple to understand. Copyright is everything you see around you. Like you see these slides. There's copyright in the slides as well because it's artistic work, it's literary work. So there's copyright in franchises. This is for menu cards, and you can see how creative the menus are. Packaging of products, brochures, materials, that's copyright. And so if there's copying, you can do something about it. And we've helped a lot of restaurants. You find that sometimes the ex-employees leave or someone has a great business idea, but they don't come up with their own brochures, they don't come up with their own menu cards. They take a large chunk of a menu card from another restaurant. So we've had situations where there was copying and we had to ask another party to stop copying.
Okay, Geeta, sorry to stop you there. All right, so it's
running out of time.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
I know you have a lot of things to share, and myself also, I'd like to learn a lot more from you as well. Okay, so perhaps from everybody that wants to know more about all the trademark IP and everything, okay, do connect with Geeta through us as well. Okay, Geeta, you have a webinar as well, right?
Yeah, we do. And you're right, Charles. I mean, anyone who wants to know more, just snap a photo of this. We'll give a free franchise consultation, regardless of whether you're a franchisor or a franchisee. So 30 minutes franchise consultation. Take my details, snapshot of this. And yeah, you can always contact us also through Venture Grab. If you need my number or anything, speak to Charles, speak to Eden or Hazwani.
In terms of trademark, right? If it's a similar color, taking the chicken rice shop example. So chicken rice shop, what if we do something, we call it the dark rice shop, then we are selling totally different thing. Is that considered
illegal?
Yeah.
You call it a duck rice shop, right? It's very different from chicken rice shop. So I went through that part really fast. It's very important to not choose a very descriptive brand, because you cannot stop someone else from using duck rice. They are telling people what they're selling, right? So a brand with just the word fishball is a weak brand. You're telling that you sell fishball. Like sushi. There's a restaurant called Sushi Ya. It's a really good restaurant, right? Yeah. So Sushi Ya has the word sushi. But what if I started a sushi place and I call it Sushi More? So it gets very tricky. It's very easy for copycats to come and steal the generic part of your brand.
And then another one is can we patent a business model?
That question we get so often. A business model cannot be patented.
Cannot. It's technology only, right?
Yeah, a way of doing business cannot be protected. Unless the way of doing business is reduced into a software, it's reduced into a system, then we can sit down with the inventor and the business owner to plan, hey, what can you protect? But sometimes very sad, we send people off saying that IP doesn't protect everything under the sun.